to Who Put This On, the podcast. This is Season 4, Episode 16. Tonight we watched Antiques Roadshow on some network. Season 17, Episode 16. Also, as a quick update to the month, we're going with Emmys month. This is the month of Emmy for Emmys. Rob, what is Emmys month?
So for Emmys month, every show we do this month is going to be a show that is nominated at the Primetime Emmys, which is happening someday this month. I don't know what day it is.
There you go, Emmy-nominated show. I'm filling in for Chris tonight since he's on the East Coast, but hopefully not in a hurricane. Hopefully everyone's all right. This is James.
Anna Beth.
Robert Kitts.
Noah Singer.
Brian Houston.
And I'm Harrison Hoffman.
There you have it. Who's got some kind of description?
I got you a show description over here. Antiques Roadshow is part adventure, part history lesson, and part treasure hunt. Watch as specialists from the country's leading auction houses and independent dealers offer free appraisals of antiques and collectibles, revealing fascinating truths about family treasures and flea market finds. That's Antiques Roadshow on PBS.
Oh boy, where to even begin here?
I think we got to begin with, is there anything special about the pod tonight besides our lack of our usual host?
That is a great call because, again, the second time, we are podcasting from a hot tub. Some of us is a first time. So, Noah, this is a first time in the hot tub for you. Is that correct?
It is the first time in the
How's
hot
it
tub.
going for you tonight?
It's going pretty well.
Pretty well.
I mean, we will share a picture on the Facebook page of what it looks like, but it's quite the impressive setup, if I do say so myself.
So, if we have watched the show and are podding from the tub, I love it. There's nothing better than hot tubbing in a pod on a cool Seattle summer day.
The only thing that makes it better is having a Wildcat Strong.
It's true. This episode brought to you by Wildcat. I feel like, what episode did we do from Canada where I feel like we first discovered Wildcat? Because that's really
We did
like part of it.
Canada's Worst Handyman.
That is right. Wow, yeah. And we pod it from Whistler.
Oh, we did.
Oh, man, what a time.
That was the original pod without the Chris Lorenz.
That's very true.
Oh,
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Man, Chris. All right, well, here's to Chris, and we'll get a little Wildcat.
Cheers.
Yeah. How should we get into this thing?
So this show, like, there's not a lot to this show that's not minutia for this show. Like, this is just an hour-long, no commercial, straight just talking about antiques, and you just go into the different antiques that are going on, and it's like you're waiting to hear how much it's worth, and you think it's going to be worth nothing, and then it's worth $80,000. Like, what happened?
No, but you're right. That really is the show. Like, it's a couple of minutes at most on a particular item, and they're going to hit a shitload of items. And each one, there's going to be an appraiser. There's somebody that's brought this whatever, some kind of thing in. And then they talk about it. There's a little storytelling that sometimes happens. And then you get a price, and that's it.
Let's be honest. The storytelling they do is reading a Wikipedia page about the artist.
No love for the appraisers, huh?
No. They were giving shallow insights for the most part. I thought we were going to get a lot of hate mail on this. But literally, one of them was describing someone. I Googled the name. The smart return answer on Google was word for word what they were saying.
Oh.
And I was just like, oh, man, we're just being fed Wikipedia.
So they're just reading off the cue cards off the side of the screen. Is that right?
Exactly.
But how do they get from like unknown object to new object? Like, where is that transition? How do you identify that?
So the appraisers are giving actually a dollar value, which obviously there's something else they're doing besides the little storytelling they're doing. But the storytelling they're doing, I think, is heavily copy-paste Wikipedia.
Well, I also don't know if you can make a generalization for all the appraisers, because like some of them were a lot more interesting and seemed like they had much more of a niche than other ones. Like we had like a rug guy, and then we had like a jewelry guy, and so I think some of them are like more familiar with like the minutia of the specific piece than others. But
And it was definitely clear that they were at least doing some level of research before, because they'd be talking about some super obscure artist or something. It's like, yeah, this artist was born in Austria in 1908, and then they moved with their family to Atlanta and whatever, and like just tell their entire life story. You know that they're just doing all the pre-research. And
Doesn't that sound like a Wikipedia page?
yeah, exactly. It is.
But the show does a good job of filming in a way that just seems like this person just knows all this stuff off the top of their head. Like,
Exactly.
oh, interesting, you brought this to me. Well, let me tell you this person's life story that I just happen to know off the top of my head. Like they do edit it and like set it up in a good way.
So to go deep, if you think someone brought you an item, you have no background. Do you think you can go into the internet corner, look up who this person is, what similar prices have sold for, or similar pieces have sold for at auctions across the world,
eBay.
and then say, yeah, I think this is going to sell for XYZ?
I love Brian just jumping in there with the eBay. Sorry, that was too funny.
This episode is also brought to you by eBay.
So Noah, like the interesting thing about that is then something that I thought was going to happen in the show they never did is they're like, oh, I have this painting or I have this piece that's signed by this person. I have this letter from Albert Einstein. I kept waiting for this is definitely a fake. It's not real, which at least in this episode never happened. But that'd be the thing if like, oh, I look up this thing on the internet corner. I'm like, oh, I've got this thing by this famous artist worth thousands of dollars. Then it's like, actually, it's totally a fake. It's not real. Like, that's the thing that I would expect if I was doing myself. That I also thought that was part of the show of like, you don't know who's going to suddenly get told that thing is garbage. It's worth $10, and that never happened.
And like there's kind of two ends to it. I think that a lot of the expertise comes in like inspecting the thing and knowing some of the key things to look for, and like you can look up the actual history in the Wikipedia article later, but I think that you'd have trouble like with your eyes like knowing the right things to look for. Like I'm even sure that like for like art appraisers, there's probably some kind of specific resource for art appraisers. It's like, okay, for this artist, like here are the things you look for, like to see if it's real. I'm sure that something like that probably exists.
So you're hitting on an interesting note there, which is, I think, one thing of the show that I did find myself enjoying, which is you sort of learn at least just a tidbit here and there throughout. Whether it's, a thing, to your point, Harrison, of looking for a specific artist trademark or a style or a certain pattern they did, or to some people who were making pots in a very specific way, or whatever it is. But it was sort of like one of the positives of the show, I thought, was that you kind of just pick up some interesting little tidbits. Not that any of it's particularly useful or anything, but yeah, I don't know. That was I just found it interesting. I could see for people that are watching the shows, like, oh, that's probably like one of the reasons you'd be into it.
If you have a niche antique roadshow, right? Let's say you're like really into like video game consoles or old video games. Like, oh, the whole episode is on that. Then I think it's interesting, right? Because then you're getting like real deep in that niche that you're interested in. Whereas what we got, at least in the episode we watched, random assortment of shit.
The Seattle Vintage episode.
Seattle Vintage.
You would have to watch a lot of Antiques Roadshow episodes to start being able to pick any of this stuff out. I mean, they are in season 23, so I'm sure there are some super fans out there who see, that pot come on there. And it's like, oh man, that's whatever. Like,
that's what was that guy's name? Buffet?
A buffet.
Oh, yeah,
or a buffet.
Bernard
Buffet.
one of my
AKA
favorite
Bernard Buffett.
One of my favorite parts of the show is the like appraisers just correcting the pronunciation of things that people say, and like it happened 3 or 4 times in this episode where like the clueless person that found this thing in their basement's like, yeah, I got some kind of
Bernard Buffett.
Jimmy Buffett painting.
Hey man,
like,
that
sorry.
guy definitely was into some Jimmy Buffett.
He's like, sir, that says Bernard Buffet. All right.
And it is priceless.
So that's definitely another piece of the show that I also enjoy, was just the people watching aspect of the show is amazing. Like there's all these different people, to Noah's point, maybe he'll get into, there's a certain genre of people, certain category. But like the clothing outfits are amazing, just to seeing different stuff. You kind of get a glimpse at these people a little bit. And then also another thing that I personally enjoyed was just the random people in the background that are just waiting in the queue with their like random shit that they haven't got appraised yet. Which is it's just fun people watching, which is weird for a TV show. Like,
yeah.
It
like takes place like in the middle of the floor of the convention center, like in the middle of an active, like ongoing convention about antiques. So people are just walking by, people are popping in, like.
And like it definitely kind of gives you a sense of sort of the scale of the operation, what they're doing, kind of how they're doing. You're seeing all these people, and like there's a section that's like silver, ceramics, jewelry, and they have all the right experts there, and you can just tell that you're seeing like less than 0.5% of the stuff that like comes through there. But that's why it's all so crazy and high quality, because like it's a huge volume of people's bringing all their random shit to this thing.
Yeah, which is something that I think is interesting to think about. There were some pieces in here that were quite an endeavor to bring to the Roadshow if you had no idea they were worth anything. We saw this one giant desk, which was huge. Like, I don't know how they even
Humongous
got
desk.
it there.
We gotta go into the desk. There's
Okay.
a lot to talk about with that desk.
Rob, please describe the desk. What
I don't know
shape
if-
was it?
It was split.
It was kind of like a Y shape.
It was called a partner desk that you would have
It
for your
was.
partner.
Yeah, I mean, I would best describe it as sort of a Y-shaped.
Y shape is a good way to put it.
Is the closest. It's like a 3 pieces that converge together kind of thing.
You could say there's like a torso that then splits out into 2 limbs that protrude out to the end. Something like that.
Very accurate description.
Yeah.
But a huge thing to bring, like that's one thing that I was fascinated by the show, is like, were all these people into antiques before? Did they get into antiques because they watched this roadshow? And then like when you happen upon this item, like in your attic or like at a yard sale, like what compels you to think it's valuable? Because a lot of the stuff they pull out doesn't look like anything to me.
I mean, like I just feel like every family has like a couple of items that's like sort of been passed down through the generations. There's been stories told over Thanksgiving and Christmases about it and like where it came from. And like, there's just always this discussion and it's always like, yeah, someone should really bring that to Antiques Roadshow and figure out what's going on with it. And yeah, I don't know.
What's your item from your family?
Oh man, the item from my family that's really mysterious and keeps coming up. There's this one spoon. There's a spoon.
A spoon.
It's this very
Oh.
like mysterious spoon, and theoretically, like my great grandfather who immigrated to the United States brought it over from like Russia, and like the origins are very mysterious. Like some stories are that he was snowed in at like the Tsar of Russia's like palace and like stole some silverware off the table. There's another version of it that's like he was like a baker in Russia and he like delivered some bread to this Tsar's palace and got paid with the spoon. There's all this mysterious stuff and no one's ever taken it to one of these things, but I really want to take it and just like, and it has some weird like crest on it. Like no one can find any info on it, but like that's the kind of shit you bring to this thing.
We got to find when the next Seattle Roadshow is coming to town.
Gotta get the Tsar's spoon out
Or
here.
the Siesta Key Roadshow.
Yeah.
I gotta ask. Oh, you also have a slot machine in
I
your
do.
apartment.
I do.
You know the provenance of the slot machine, though.
I know the story sort of, and the story is basically that it comes from the basement of some old Italian restaurant in Chicago Heights that was a known hangout of infamous gangster Al Capone. So like the story behind that one is that it came from one of Al Capone's secret underground casinos in Chicago Heights. But I mean, that's another one of those totally unverified like situations.
Well, we also learned on this show, when you have stuff like that, you would need some kind of letter from
Right.
Al Capone talking about the slot machine.
Like a
so we would
picture-
know it was, or like
a
him
picture of Al-
pulling it.
I wish I had that picture.
Does anybody else have an item in their family that we can bring to the roadshow?
I don't know if I have anything like that. Like my grandfather definitely had a bunch of old clocks, but we didn't have anything like we told the story or like, oh, that clock is that story. Well, I guess we did have one clock we told a story about where my grandfather actually built a whole clock out of wood, even the gears and
Ooh.
stuff. But I
Wait, he hand built a whole like grandfather clock kind of situation?
Oh yeah,
Wooden
Whoa.
gears?
wooden
The
gear.
gears are made of wood. What?
Every single part of the clock was made out of wood. He had to buy these special equipment and stuff. It
Oh,
was
cool.
nuts. It was really cool. But it's not like, oh, when was that built? It's like, that was built in 1997. I know exactly when that was built because he put the year on it.
Is it currently
not
in use in your house?
I think it's actually at my parents' house, yeah.
Does it keep accurate time?
If you wind it, it does. You need to
Awesome.
wind
Okay.
it, yeah. No, it's
That's
really cool. Anyone else?
Yeah, so the one thing that comes to mind, when I was a kid, maybe like third grade or so, I was at David Wells' perfect game as a Yankee. The giveaway at the game was Valentino, the Beanie Baby.
Oh,
And so there's this special edition Beanie Baby from David Wells' perfect game. Supposedly on eBay, they're fetching a couple $100 right now.
Oh.
So my mom was talking about putting it up on eBay, see if we can actually cash in on that big Valentino money.
Make that money.
Yeah.
There was definitely a period of time where Beanie Babies were like crazy valuable. I feel like that market's probably kind of died out a little bit.
That's what I assumed as well. But then my mom was like, yeah, people are actually, at least they're selling it for that much.
Wow.
Which goes into a whole other angle about this show.
We got to get into that angle because it's
Let's
nuts.
do it.
Oh, wait,
Let's
ABC,
go.
Oh,
you
sorry.
trying to
No.
capstone that? All right.
Let's hit it. So these appraisals.
Yeah.
So you get these appraisers, and they give you at the end, they're like, okay, you know, they give you some spill, but more or less, they're like, I think that they give you a range. Like, this item is worth between $5,000 and $6,000 appraisal. And here's the thing. Who's buying this shit?
It has to be a very
yeah.
specific auction. Like some of them even
Yeah.
reference like at like I don't know, like I'm trying to remember, but like a
one of
rug
them was
auction,
an art thing. If you go to an art
Yeah.
show, this will be expected.
an art gallery. Yeah.
I mean, it definitely seems to me that the prices are optimistic and dependent on you having like the exact right buyer and the right conditions for
Totally.
selling that thing. I mean, because that is the big thing. Like, what's the actual demand for this stuff? Like, yes, somebody might buy it at that price, but can you find that person? Do they already have one of these? Like, I mean, it's hard.
So, man, it's tough because, yeah, it's sort of, you need the niche thing to that point. But then these people, like, when they hear these prices, they think, like, they have just gotten the $5,000 or $6,000. Like, oh, this item is worth that. And I don't know, like, part of me feels like, oh, they kind of feel good, but then it's kind of like, it's really, like, it's not really true value, though.
Well, you also get the impression that at least I did. Most of these people weren't here to actually sell the item at all. Like most of
That's
these
true.
people, it seemed like this was like a curiosity, and they just wanted to know how much it was.
Yeah, this is the opposite of Pawn Stars, right? Where it's just like these
Yeah.
people are just trying to come and sell their shit to get $100 to go to slot machine. This is not this people.
Yeah, we definitely have to get into the Pawn Stars comparison here. I mean, it's pretty obvious, I think. We haven't done Pawn Stars yet on the pod, but like,
Can't believe we haven't done that one.
which is crazy. But I actually think in a lot of ways, like Pawn Stars is the version of the show that I actually want. In that, like, you do get to see the clunkers in there that aren't worth anything. You get to see these. Okay, so basic premise of Pawn Stars for people that haven't seen it. These guys own a pawn shop in Las Vegas. Much like this, customers come in with their stuff that they're looking to pawn or sell, and then the dude does some history, tells them a little bit about it, and then they basically just haggle with whoever brought it in on the price. Like
they
dude,
lowball the price every time. They're
Yeah,
like, this
like-
thing's worth $20.
like these dudes basically try to like rip them off and stuff like that. Like sometimes they'll bring in like for the really valuable stuff they'll bring in some kind of quote unquote independent outside appraiser to like give a price on it. But like these guys are just running this pawn shop business and they're just trying to rip off all these people bringing their stuff in.
They just call in their buddies. Let's be honest. They're
Yeah.
like, yeah, I know my bike guy down the street. He
Yeah.
reviews all the bikes. He says it's only worth $200. I don't know.
Yeah, and like and you get a lot of situations where people were like, you know, they'll have the appraiser guy come in and be like, yeah, all right, that's worth, you know, $5,000 at auction or whatever. And like that's kind of what we're talking about, the most ideal conditions. And then like that guy will leave, and then the pawn shop guy will be like, all right, so what do you want for this? And like, well, that dude said $5,000. Like, so you know, it's got to be, you know, I'm gonna start at 5,000. And the guy's like, it's not worth that.
He's like, I'll give you
Like,
two.
It's like it's
No,
not-
but seriously,
it's not gonna,
'cause-
he's like, it's not gonna sell for that in here. I have to make my profit. Like whatever. I'll give you $200 for it or whatever. And it's always
No,
like,
sometimes it does go down
yeah,
crazy like that,
and,
though.
and it's like it's really fun. And you know,
And then people sell the shit like on the spot.
and there's definitely
Yeah.
a bit of like kind of a human story element to this because like a lot of these people have a reason why they're coming in to like sell their treasured possessions. And you can tell it's like a hard decision for a lot of these people.
Ooh.
Yeah,
It's
feels
a
a little-
darker
yeah.
show.
a little bit
I
darker.
mean, I
Yeah.
don't know that I like that show better, to be fair. Like,
oh, I like it better.
there's an element that is like you can argue is more entertaining, but for some of those reasons, it's kind of a downer because it's like, you know, these people are
Oh,
selling
yeah.
the shit. And like the problem I have with Pawn Stars compared to this show, which I didn't find myself feeling that way, is that like Pawn Stars, you know, they're ripping these people off and like they're just doing it one after another. You're just watching it. And I feel like after a while, if you watch enough Pawn Stars, you're just kind of getting into that mode of just ripping people off. And I feel like it's not great.
It's a little dirty.
It's a little, yeah, you feel dirty. You have
Yeah.
to take a shower after.
This is like the cleanest show.
Yeah, this is really
This is
wholesome.
like really rated G.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I like the aspect of Pawn Stars that like the item actually gets bought for some amount of money because that's the whole thing with this. It's like who's gonna buy it? Like the dude at the pawn shop is spending his money on it and taking up space on his shelf, and I bet that he's gonna be able to sell that thing and make a profit. So like
What
you
if
know
I
it's kind
told
of like
you-
a more real number, right?
Well, but yeah,
Yeah.
that pawn. So that guy's gonna sell it for like a hopefully a price closer to the appraisal, right?
Maybe, yeah. It depends. I mean, and like a lot of times they're like best, most ideal conditions are like the super specific auction for this kind of thing that has all the right people there, but it's not going to sell for the same price on the shelf of the pawn shop as it's
Sure.
going to sell at the auction. So.
Sure. That was interesting, and that came up on this show too, which is like people bringing in items that they tell them the price if they do something to it. Like there was a painting, and they were like, this will be worth this much, but you have to like get it like remounted with a different back. Or like people had jewelry, and they were like, oh, you have to like take this to a silversmith and like redo this piece so it like works in this different way, and then it'll be worth this amount. But I'm kind of interested into like how much those things would cost.
Oh, the repair stuff?
Yeah,
Totally.
the repairs, like just so like what is the actual value of this?
It's weird that you would have thought that these appraisers would have also been able to like, hey, you could take this to a goldsmith or a smith and get it probably repaired for, let's say, $100, and then you can sell it for
Right.
blah.
Right.
Like, I'm surprised that you would think that they would know, or maybe I don't know. Maybe that was.
I feel
not-
like there was one time they actually said something like that, but that was when they had like $6,000 worth of stuff to fix.
Oh
on
yeah,
it.
yeah.
But it's also kind of surprising to me that like these like very valuable items, like I feel like you should be able to put them up for auction as they are, and like if someone is like someone's gonna know that it's not gonna cost anything really to fix it.
Well, you can put it up there, but like it's like a lot of things where you sell, like spending a little bit of money to make something sort of look better
Sure.
will pay off in the long run. Like selling houses and cars, it's like a common thing, and so I could see the same thing in the world of
It's all
antiquing.
optics.
Yeah.
Like I really hate bringing this back to Pawn Stars all the time, but like
Oh.
like one of the things that's really cool about it is like the thing you're talking about is like a part of the negotiation for the item, and it's like, hey, you know, I could buy this from you, but it's gonna cost me $4,000 to fix this and be able to sell it. So like we gotta knock the price down. Like that's kind of part of the thing. Like I do wish that was a little more a part of this too.
That is one of the cool parts of that show. I will give you that. Is like they'll sometimes do the repairs, and like that'll be part of the show. They'll do like a 5-minute segment on it. You know, the next week they'll kind of show like, oh, last time we bought this crazy motorcycle that was missing a whatever, and we totally repaired it, and now we're selling it, and now we sold to this dude.
We took it to Diesel Brothers.
We took it to Diesel Brothers. There is a piece here though. What if I were to tell you there's a show that sits right in between the extremes of Pawn Stars and Antiques Roadshow?
Whoa.
What is it?
I think it does everything Harrison's asking for, although I'm concerned that it's focused on cars. It's the Barrett Jackson Auto Show.
Oh.
So it's basically the same thing as Antiques Roadshow, kind of merged with Pawn Stars, where these folks bring in, they're essentially antique cars, or all kind of cars at this point. I think it started out as antiques. The Internet Corner or somebody will probably yell at me about that. But nonetheless, the idea of the show is that you bring your car and you roll it on the stage, and it is a live, real auction. And these are cars that, you know, in many cases are antiqued or very old, have been super repaired or cleaned up. It is not a pimp my ride type of thing. It's like a very like,
yeah.
this is like real legitimate work that's gone in, and then the people sell it. They have pink slips and like documentation, provocations, all these things. And then you get the actual buying. You're like, oh, like, and part of the fun of watching that show is you're like, man, that's an interesting looking car. I wonder how much that'll go for. And then like you start to see the price climb, and there's people from around the world that call in, and like the price started, you know, 100,000, 120. It's like going up, and it's just kind of fun to like watch it go up. So it's an interesting one. I would say that kind of sits right in between these two shows, I think.
Guess
I
what?
think it'd be cool if at the end of every Antiques Roadshow item, they like immediately gave that person a deal on the table that they had to take or leave.
A deal or no deal sort of
Deal or no
situation.
deal.
Well, do you give it to them before you tell them the price, or after you tell them the
Ooh,
price?
that would be a good. Ooh.
So like yeah, so I totally agree with you, and this is kind of like I'm wondering about how the whole Antiques Roadshow operation works and why it exists the way that it does. Because like we saw the thing, and they had this whole operation where they have all these appraisers, and there's shit ton of people coming in. Like, does this all exist to produce like this TV show and to just pick out the ones that they want to put on TV, or is like there's some kind of other business going on here where they're like finding valuable antiques, they're buying them from people or reselling? Like, is there something else happening, or?
I say yes. Noah is clearly shaking his head
It's
no.
PBS.
What's it?
No. The show is PBS, but like I think Harrison's
like,
point is
yeah.
that like this show, this whole convention, it's like Antiques Week in Seattle, and everyone's bringing all their shit. And part of the thing that gets produced on PBS is the show, but like the other whole side of it, I bet like people are selling. It's a trade
Oh,
show,
sure.
like
yeah,
all that stuff.
okay. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think this is like probably a week-long affair or something. And like there's stalls, you walk around. Because the other part of this, which we
totally.
didn't really get into, which is I think part of the community of this show, is like the people that go antiquing. Like there is a legitimate size. I don't know
The
how
genre
big,
of people, as
the
you
genre
say.
of people that are the antiquers. They go hunting out for antiquing.
The tikis.
The tikis. I don't know what they go by. What do they like to go by? You think?
This doesn't end in a good place.
Probably not.
No.
I actually, so when I was in Minnesota on a trip, I think it was Stillwater, Minnesota, there for a wedding, lovely wedding. But that aside, we went to an antique shop one day. It was fun to walk around, but I clearly didn't buy anything or know how much anything was worth. So it was kind of like walking through a museum a little bit.
Yeah.
But you could buy the stuff.
Antique shops are pretty cool.
Yeah, like it was
They're really
interesting.
cool.
I don't know. Like I don't know it's the kind of thing that I could like go out of my way or make a day of and like, okay, I'm going to go see 15 antique shops today.
Sure.
But it was like as a store on like Main Street of this small town was like a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
That's about the extent of it.
Didn't you go to get the perfume bottle recently?
Yeah,
antique shop
yeah. There's
here?
a big like kind of Seattle antiques market down there on Alaskan Way, and I think thing's pretty popular. A lot of
Yeah.
crazy stuff in there.
Is this like a known thing?
Yeah, it's like famous
I've
kind
seen
I
of.
feel like
Yeah,
the
it
show
looks
really
big.
should have covered that. I should have learned that from the show.
Hey,
yeah.
we can all go to the antiques Seattle market.
Ooh.
Maybe
Yeah.
find some treasures.
Yeah.
Well,
I
James,
like
this is season 17. It might not have been the first time they've come to Seattle. So this
They'll be
time
back.
they decided to focus on Jimi Hendrix instead of
That's true.
other Seattle local tidbits.
What was the deal with that part of the show? So there was like 2, maybe 3 segments of this like EMP museum stuff going on.
Well, we gotta get back to that, but there's something about this show that I cannot believe has not come up yet.
Oh yeah.
That we need to get into before we get into that
Are
segment.
we talking about the opening scene?
We were talking about the person billed as the host of Antiques Roadshow, Annabeth. Who is the host of this show?
Oh my God, those blue eyes came on, and it was none other than Mark L. Wahlberg,
Oh
the
no!
devil. He hosted this show. But I think now that we're talking about it, I am pretty sure that when we looked up Mark L. Wahlberg originally, like we learned this and forgot, and then somehow we watched this program for the pod.
This
And it
definitely.
was horrible to see him again. Haunting.
I don't know. Harrison seemed real excited. I don't think horrible is the word he
I
I
used.
think
was-
Harrison screamed.
Yeah, I
Harrison
did.
Jumped out of his chair.
He definitely jumped
Well,
out of his chair.
Okay, here's the sequence of events as it happened, and I think that a similar thing might have happened when we started watching Temptation Island. This guy walks on, and I immediately said, "Is that Chris Harrison?" Because as
That is
reiterated,
exactly what happened.
because as if you go back and listen to the Temptation Island pod, like Mark L. Wahlberg looks exactly like Chris Harrison. So first I said, "Is that Chris Harrison?" One of our friends who is a big Bachelor Nation fan immediately said, "That is not Chris Harrison." and then it turns out it's Mark L. Wahlberg, Satan himself.
He's back.
El
Well, I guess
Diablo.
this was first, but still.
It really doesn't fit his whole vibe. It's
no,
weird.
It seemed like if someone was gonna be conning these people out of their antiques, like that should have been Mark L. Wahlberg's role.
Yeah, like after you get the
Like,
appraisal.
do you want to stay with this antique or do you want to sell it to me right here, right now?
Yeah, they should definitely hand off to Mark L. Wahlberg to do that deal
Do
with the
that
devil.
dirty work.
I feel like that's how you make the show into a twist. You put it to Temptation Roadshow. You like
Temptation Roadshow.
describe the piece. You say, okay, before I give you the appraisal, you can take the $100 now, or wait for the appraisal, and potentially lose whatever we're gonna give you, right? And then you just break people's heart time and
Maybe.
time again.
Maybe you set it up like you don't offer them money, but like you get to see someone else's antique and decide whether or not to trade with them.
Whoa.
Oh.
You get to decide whether you
Oh.
think your thing is better than their thing.
So it's like an antiques battle, essentially.
Maybe it's like an antiques white elephant. That's what I want it to be, actually.
Ooh, that'd be good.
Everybody puts their antiques in the middle. They're all wrapped up. Like
They hear the
one's
appraisal
clearly a
story,
desk.
but not
Yeah.
the price.
You hear the stories, whatever. Then you decide. What do? Who is left with the $250,000 painting?
Does that desk need to be on Temptation Island?
Ha.
Oh, yeah. Maybe that desk inspired Mark L. Wahlberg's later career choice.
It's possible.
Yes, we had Mark L. Wahlberg in that. Yeah, James brought this up earlier, but the genre of people, as James, I guess, on the
Uh-oh.
show. Yeah, it was very apparent that there was only white people on the show. I think there was 1 or 2 Asian people. And we're talking about they were cycling through a lot of people.
We definitely. How many do we get a final item count?
We can go.
We should pull it
tally it up. Well, Noah discusses.
Yeah, the lack of diversity in this show or potentially the broader antiquing community was starkly apparent.
In the Seattle area.
Yeah, that's I think an important point. Like, would that be a different picture if it wasn't in Seattle? I mean, given the Seattle demographics.
But Seattle's not like a non-diverse city, but it's
Sure.
the kind of people that just have antiques because they've been in their house for 50 years, like that.
Right.
You know.
So how many items do you guys think we saw tonight?
33.
I was gonna say 35.
Yeah, it's got to be in that zone. I'm gonna
Yeah.
go. Well, so are we counting the bonus time at the end where they rattled off like 10 of them?
No, that
No.
doesn't count.
No.
Okay,
So I think it's,
29.
I'm thinking 18.
I'll go 30.
I counted 16.
Whoa!
Wow.
Ryan is our big winner.
Wow, I really thought he was lowballing that one.
Seemed like more.
It seemed like so many. And that's the thing with the
I
show.
know the show went on and on and on, but
is it's dense, it's moving. Like there's no commercial breaks and there's no like trying to tee up what's coming next and stuff. It's just they talk about the item a bunch, then they drop the this is actually worth $5,000, then boom, onto the next one, and you just go in again. And that's where like the EMP thing came in. I think it was like we need some break in the middle, just give you a couple minutes to get something else going before we get back to like just all kinds of different items. But at 16, I really thought it was more than that.
but that's the glory of PBS. It has no commercials, so we can just keep rolling.
It never stops.
It's brought to you with contributions from viewers like you.
It also seems that when this originally aired, this AIM aired as a full 3-hour special on Seattle.
Oh, you think it actually airs like all 3 hours?
No,
I think it
they're
does.
splitting
That
it
is-
up.
No, I
What a marathon.
I mean, I'm basing this off the movie Grandma's Boy, but I think that they just freaking marathon this thing.
I mean, because when it's listed on the thing, it says Seattle hour 1, hour 2, hour 3.
Okay, but like
Maybe.
they're definitely splitting up into hour chunks. Like, but they just roll from one to another. Like it's just Antique
PBS.
Roadshow for like 8 hours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's just the thing. I think you start hanging out, you start watching it, and that's it.
But isn't
It
that
is
what-
very
yeah.
soothing. Like this, I think, is like ASMR for the mind.
It's definitely not. It's not stressful at all.
There are no stakes.
There's no drama.
Nothing can go wrong.
Yeah.
Like
Nothing
the
says
worst
sail.
thing that happens is someone's like slightly disappointed.
And then you just
But
throw
we
it in
didn't
the
really see
dumpster.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like they don't really focus on the this is useless.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this is junk.
This is
They
trash.
don't do the American Idol thing where they let the really good ones through, but they definitely let
Yeah.
some real bad ones
Yeah.
through just for comparison.
Just for kicks.
Yeah, I mean, if you think of the beginning of the show, like it seems like every item generally increased in price.
It
like,
really did.
yeah.
it wasn't totally linear, but at the beginning it was maybe like a couple thousand. At the end, we're at 250,000.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They definitely closed with a banger.
Which
Oh,
is
yeah.
weird. I was starting to notice that trend. I'm like, well, I guess they're just gonna keep ramping up, which is a weird. I don't know. It's weird for the show to do that. I feel like.
But really, like
Um,
at the end of it, like they did the blooper reel. I think that like they just cut out like a lot of like the bad stuff and throw it at the end
Yeah.
because it's
I
just not
agree.
worth watching that.
Well, I think really what's happening is like the people are going, like all the stuff's going in the background of people are talking to these appraisers, and then they like flag like, oh,
This
we
is a
got
good one.
we got a good one. And then it's like, okay, you got to come up to the front, and we're gonna set up the camera and it's all a whole production to kind of get there. Though it's pretty like, I guess because they don't show any clunkers. If you get brought to the table, you're gonna get something, which is actually explains something that I found kind of surprising. Is like. The reactions of the people when you get told what it's worth was much more muted than I expected. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Harrison's reaction to Mark L. Wahlberg being on TV was by far the most excited reaction I saw tonight. But maybe that's because it's like, you already know, like, oh, I'm coming to the center table to be on the
Yeah.
show. Something's good to happen. So when it gets dropped, oh, this is worth like $12,000. Like, oh, okay. And it's not like total, like, I can't believe this is worth this much.
Do you think they already know that when they get there? Do you think it's actually kind of rehearsed to a small degree?
I bet they can't know the actual number, but to some degree they must know, like, oh, this is something interesting, or
Yeah.
this is something worth putting on the show.
I bet this is true.
Yeah. And then they got the blooper of like, hey, when you don't get picked to go on the show, yeah, you can go in front of this camera and just do a confessional of like what you got. You're like, this thing was garbage. It was worth nothing.
The big difference I think is that the shows that we watch, like all these reality shows that we watch, they're picking the people that are on TV and they're casting people based on their personality and how fiery or interesting they are. And in this case, you're making it on TV because you brought a thing that's worth money, not because you're interesting. And I think that kind of plays into it a little bit.
Well, that plus like most of the shows we watch have some kind of goal or like some kind of plot, and this is very
That's
easy,
it.
very
the goal
gentle.
is bring an item.
Just bring in stuff.
We'll tell you if it's worth anything.
We'll show you stuff.
That's a bit.
yeah.
Maybe there's a story along the way. Maybe not.
This
I was
guy can-
wondering if you guys wanted to revisit some of these items.
Well,
If
let's
we
do
want
it.
to
Let's
chat
get some of
about
those
anything
highlights.
in particular. Let's talk about Green Bull.
Thank you.
Oh, Green Bull.
Brian, can you tell us anything you remember about the Green Bull?
It basically looked like a jack-o'-lantern bowl, but really green.
Super green.
That's a great description.
It looks like it was made of plastic.
Yeah.
It definitely did not look like an antique or valuable.
This is pretty early when we definitely thought there was going to be some like clunkers, and
For
we were
sure.
all like, "This bowl is worth $10."
We're like, they're gonna break it on the floor.
I'm not 100% sure about this, but I thought that I caught that they said that bowl was made in the same place where that blown away glass blowing show is set
I think
in
that
Corning.
I think that's true.
Yeah, the
I heard
World
that
Glass
too.
place.
No, it was the same.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
I
they
missed
used like
that.
a cool technique of like using acid to like eat the patterns on the bowl. Like it was pretty cool. That bowl told a story. Do you guys remember how much the bowl was worth? I've written down the price.
Not much.
5,000.
4,000.
8 to 12.
3,000. Thanks for playing this
Yeah.
game.
That
Here's
was
some
totally an item that you would see at a garage sale and just think it was trash
totally.
by
Straight
looking
trash.
at it. I have no way of knowing.
But I also think it gets back to your idea of you see that bowl at your like parents' house, like we're gonna throw this out. This is like
Yeah.
this is definitely just some garbage taking up space. We gotta get rid of this.
To
thing.
Goodwill.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Man, how much? Oh, there's a whole Goodwill aspect to this now.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Oh,
think
yeah.
of those antiques as rolling in and have no idea.
I mean, people must bring so much actual garbage to these events.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm sure, like, I mean, I even sort of feel it now after watching one episode of this show. Like, next time I go to, like, Goodwill or something, I'm going to be like, could this be the Green Bull? Like, maybe. It'll be garbage, but
It's probably garbage.
I bet they have to sort through a lot of stuff. Here's another item, the Bernard Buffet painting we talked about a little bit. That ended up being $25,000.
But you have to go to France to get it validated.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't have that validation, so I had to get the experts to confirm it's not a fake.
Right.
It pays for
An
itself.
authentic buffet.
Yeah, I got this Buffett painting.
Bernie Buffett.
This was an interesting one that we mentioned briefly. Letters written by Albert Einstein.
Which
Oh,
it was
unpublished and unreleased.
Unpublished.
This story definitely sounded like the fakest story ever. I'm like,
totally.
my
Yeah.
grandfather
Yeah.
wrote this book, and he was pals with Albert Einstein, so he asked him to write the foreword. And here's Albert Einstein's typewritten notes that he signed. But they didn't actually use the foreword in the book. So this is like an unpublished work. It's like, this is some
like,
BS. There's
how-
no
You
way this is
typed
true.
this hours ago.
How are they authenticating that? I guess it's the signature, but it's nuts. Like,
And the paper somehow. I'm
It's
sure they
just-
can tell like what the paper's made
Right,
of.
right. You probably have to triangulate. Like one, did Albert Einstein have a typewriter? That they
Wasn't
probably
it handwritten?
No.
No, it was
typed.
typed,
It was
then
typed,
there was
but it
a
was
handwritten
signed.
signature.
Right.
But you
so
can probably
like,
tell like what type of typewriter
right,
was
right.
used.
So if you knew like Albert Einstein had that type of typewriter, then you see okay the date of the ink in the paper, and it's like
yeah.
you probably just start increasing the confidence, but can never be like guaranteed it's from him.
yeah, and we learned in this episode that there's a decent market for Albert Einstein notes. Like, this is not like there's like, yeah, you know, sometimes these come out, you know, they're worth about $8,000, whatever, and like, oh my god.
Yeah.
This actually brings up a market I never understood the value of, which is signatures in general. I never understood the value of getting things signed. Like, I just don't see why there's value in it.
I mean, I think that it is the signature is proof that that person held that thing, as I think like part of it. It's like that person and that thing were in the same place at the same time, and like now you have it.
Yeah.
That's kind of like my impression of the signature
And it's
thing.
more
but
limited.
yeah, right.
But there's inherent value, like athletes sign jerseys a lot, right?
Sign all sorts of stuff.
There's inherent value of like Wayne Gretzky holding a jersey for a second.
and then in signing, yeah, to prove that yeah.
Well, there's also value in the fact that Wayne Gretzky signed it, right?
Well,
so
I-
like
I-
he has
that's
only
my
signed
question,
so
like,
many
why?
things in his life.
But, like,
And he is a
Right.
famous
label,
person.
I
Like
just
you
don't-
signing it, you know, let's be honest, you're only so famous. it's only worth so much. It might be worth a little bit. Not saying it's not worth anything.
I am on this podcast.
But I'm just saying.
Noah,
limited value.
can you sign it? But can you sign it the internet corner and not Noah?
Right. Like if we get you to start signing the mics and we start distributing the mics out, I don't know, maybe we'll do that. Who knows? Anything can happen. But the point of the story being that, that person, like we are all people, everyone's going to die at some point. There's a limited number of things that famous person has signed.
That got dark all of a sudden.
It did get a little dark.
Yeah,
but
no, I wasn't just sure if anyone knew that. Like it just always.
It's definitely, and
confusing.
it's like
But it's like sentimental too. It's like, if someone wrote you a letter and like they signed their name, like I feel like it's a little bit like that.
No, here's how I'd answer that. It's not rational. But certain people...
Yeah.
totally.
believe in it.
I mean, in this
collecting
one-
things is not like the most rational thing to do. Right? Like if you're being very practical, collecting anything is not the most practical thing to do.
Besides money.
Well, but the reason that it's valuable in that case is because there's some inherent value that somebody else values that thing.
That is true. Very true.
Right?
Yeah.
Like somebody else values that jersey or whatever.
Yeah. Well, in this show, a lot of the signatures we saw were like verification. And I do think for this Einstein one, this is like attached to a one-of-a-kind document. So this one's like a little bit different.
Purported one of a kind.
Purported.
The-
Well,
the-
one thing about this document, though, to go back to verification, do you think they have some kind of forensics lab that all these appraisers have access to? Like, are they like taking samples of all these items like on the convention floor?
I don't think they're like carbon dating it or anything, but like they're probably
Sure.
like taking photos and able to compare it to sort of stuff like that. But like,
Oh, there was that story about the guy who took the picture of the desk, right?
yeah.
And sent it to the guy who made it,
Kagan,
or
who designed it.
Vladimir
Who designed
Kagan,
it, yeah.
who the first time they said it, I thought he said this desk is from Vladimir Putin. And I was like,
Oh my god.
it's like Putin is the crazy sex desk. What?
I emailed it to him and he called me right away.
He called me 5 minutes later. That was wild.
He's like, you took my
But
desk.
The last thing on the Einstein thing is that was the moment where I was like, okay, none of these are fake.
Yeah.
Right.
Apparently.
We'd seen enough at that point, and I was like, this sounds so fake. And they're
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, this is worth like $12,000. Like, okay, these are all going to be worth a lot of money. Like,
It definitely took the surprise element at that point.
Yeah.
Was there any other interesting
Yeah,
items?
let's hit some highlights here. We got a dress worn by Dottie Lamore, I think is her name.
How would you describe Dottie?
Well, I've got a quote here from the appraiser who was telling the story of this dress. So this dress apparently was, I guess, given by Dottie to these soldiers at Pearl Harbor, and she signed it. And the appraiser's telling us who Dottie is, and she says, when we think of sex pots, we automatically think of Marilyn Monroe, but, and then she explains Miss Dottie. And a lot of people tonight learned the word sex pot.
There you go.
Me.
It's like a period specific term. Like, why is Marilyn Monroe the most famous sex pot? I mean, there's a lot of beautiful women since Marilyn Monroe. Like, why is she the quintessential sex pot?
Well, I think because in this context we were talking about classic movie stars.
Oh,
But I think
the
they're-
word isn't tied to that
No.
generation or something. Like it's
I
not
mean,
tied
it's
to
not
like
a
the
common
50s.
word. Perhaps it was more trendy, like a few decades ago. But like that word just means. I looked it up on Oxford Dictionary. A sexy person.
Wow.
But it's
So
like one of
what's-
those
So
when
we
you
are-
look at like
we are
the
all sex
usage
pots.
lines, those usage
Yeah.
charts where
It's
it's,
still
like it was
high.
probably peak in the 50s and then it
No,
sorta,
it looks like it jumped up in the 50s, but it stayed strong ever
Whoa.
since. But I think it just never got that strong.
what's the 2019 slang version of sex pot?
Uh-oh. This is where we have to put the warning on the pod.
Explicit content.
We can move on. I thought there might be a quick answer to that.
A dime,
A dime. Ah.
There you go.
maybe.
Yeah, I like that one.
Was there a special word for the dress? Like, it wasn't a dress. It was a.
wrong.
It was a
Oh,
sarong.
sarong.
Because
Thank you,
she
Noah.
was in movies. She was in a movie called The Jungle Princess, where she
Ooh.
wore a classic sarong and looked beautiful.
And she became
very
like
sexy.
the sarong lady or something.
The sarong, yeah, queen or something. Yeah.
She was the most beautiful wearing sarongs. They said something like that.
the most
There wa-
beautiful sarong
There
wearer.
definitely was. There was definitely some crazy fact like that came out. It doesn't okay.
Here's one that I thought was a horrible item that should be in the trash. There was a set of 3 spooky woodcut paintings that were just terrifying. I kept zooming in on them. They were like these haunting scenes from like a dark forest, and one was some kind of bird, and I hated them.
It's very scary, very creepy.
I thought they weren't even paintings; they were prints.
Yeah, they were woodcut prints. They were
woodcut
awful.
prints.
They were awful.
But that was one where they had the letter authenticating them.
It
and
was-
that was the,
Unfortunately.
It was like some artist when he was in like art school made these, and then when I'm to become a famous artist whose style is completely different from these paintings, basically. And apparently, at some point, the owner of these paintings contacted the original artist, or the original artist contacted her or something, and wanted to buy the paintings back because they were meaningful to him and sentimental from his art school days. And she fucking said, no, I'm taking it to Antiques Roadshow, and I'm selling these things.
And she used his letter that he mailed to her to offer to buy them. She used that as proof that they're his prints.
as a
good.
prop.
Insane.
Did they just get this letter? I thought it was like this letter came in like 20 years ago, and now they're just
Yeah.
getting it for- like it makes it sound like they got the letter, then 2 days later they're like,
We're doing
finally.
You never know.
Okay, so those ended up being $7,000 to $10,000 each, which is
Damn.
wild. What else did we go through? There were some tiny German soldier bobbleheads, which
Or
the
nodders.
Nodders, which the appraiser called amusing. So that was fun.
I was shocked. Like that was like the cheapest thing we saw. It was like only like $1,500, and that apappraiser was so fired up.
He was so
Yeah.
happy, and he was like,
I
"Some people
definitely
use
thought
these to
like
decorate."
50,000 was coming or something.
Yeah. Those were definitely the things that were like, this is just old junk, and the fact that it's old is the reason why it has a price on it.
Let me pop through another couple things. We had a piece of pottery, which wasn't that interesting, but the appraiser's name was French, spelled with 2 F's.
French.
So that was cool.
French.
Then we had my favorite appraiser was Bruce M. Shackelford, who appraised who appraised a tea cozy, but he knew it was a tea cozy, and he quizzed the lady who was selling it. She was like, it looks kind of like a hat, and he was like, but what does it do?
Well, it's-
What is it?
well,
What is it?
Like the thing you didn't see is 30 seconds before the camera started rolling. They're just like, okay, we're gonna go on and you're gonna tell the story of this thing and what it is. And then she didn't do it, and the guy started to be like, well, what is it?
It was so weird.
She
Also,
froze on the camera.
that guy was wearing an NFL ring, and the tea cozy was
He had all kinds of
$2,000.
Also, that was the fastest transition of the night.
Oh yeah, he
He just rolls it.
just like dropped in that 20K whatever it was, and then boom, we're on to the next thing so fast.
But also what he did here, he asks her again. He puts her on the spot. How much do you think it's worth? And she's like, I don't know, maybe like a couple $100. It's worth 2,000. Next item is
It just wipes to the
Star
next.
Wipe.
Like there were definitely kind of 2 tiers of things. There were like things that they were gonna like take a bunch of time and have the whole table set up and like the whatever and do it. And then there were a couple of these quick hits in there. They're just like quick assessment, tell you the price, get out, no graphics on the screen. Like
In and
great.
out. But the tea cozy was amazing. We got just a couple more. We got these kind of spooky jade women, where the appraiser said, "I've seen a lot of jade maidens in my day." That was $25,000 to $40,000.
This is
Shocking.
when a part of the show where the prices start going up like unexplainably.
Yeah, things really leveled up here. Right after that, we had #Roadshow Bling, a special hashtag which was shown on the screen during Antiques Roadshow.
There's something about the combination of Antiques Roadshow and hashtags. It feels like it should not exist.
2 different
Or are
worlds.
they doing it? I don't. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
2 different worlds. To end
Although
this point.
on the bling, the appraisers wore an unusual amount of very ostensible jewelry.
yeah.
Like you mentioned, the football ring. The one of the women who was appraisers had like this huge gold like necklace
Like
on.
rope. It was like
Yeah.
a huge
Yeah, like a rope. And then also the appraisers' ties. They had very
Very bold ties.
bold. Yeah.
That's what we call #Roadshow style.
Roadshow style.
Like very much like turning around 50. They want to get a tie that makes them like seem like they're in for casual Friday, and so they get the Felix the Cat tie to show their personality. Like that's what we're dealing with.
Got a bunch of cool appraisers.
So any
Very
other minutia we want to get into before the rating? Because I feel like it's about rating time pretty soon here.
The only thing I can think of is the feedback booth, but we kind of touched on that.
We should hit the EMP stuff really quick.
Hit it.
Basically, and I assume that they do this in every episode, but because it's in Seattle, they want to give you a little bit of Seattle history, show you some valuable Seattle antiques. So the most valuable thing that we saw on this show was Jimi Hendrix pants that he wore at Woodstock and some other festivals as well. And then,
But specifically, he played the Star Spangled Banner famous recording
Yeah.
in these pants, in these blue velvet pants.
yeah, he wore them in his Woodstock performance, and then there was some other jacket that wasn't quite worth as much, but still worth some insane amount of money.
And like a casual vest.
And he didn't have to sign any of them for it to be worth anything.
But if they were signed,
Then who knows?
Can you imagine?
Who knows?
it'd definitely be worth more if they were signed.
I don't know, dude.
I think
I'm not
so.
sure if you ruin those pants by signing them. If they're
Not if
worth
they're
more.
signed by Jimi Hendrix himself.
I think that like part of the point.
You're telling me Jimi Hendrix signs his own guitar and it's worth less somehow?
I think that part of the point of this whole section is that they talk about the kind of the different ways that things can be verified.
yeah.
And like the way that they've verified these clothes is because there's video of him playing the Star Spangled Banner at Woodstock
those
in these
pants.
pants.
Right.
And like that's the thing that verifies it and like makes it valuable. And maybe it might be more valuable if he signs it.
What if you had a closet full of those pants? How do you know
Yeah.
those are the Star Spangled Banner?
That's a
pants?
great question. Yeah.
I really like to imagine those pants were just like the most popular item at Old Navy at that point in time.
Oh yeah.
And like all these kids had those pants, and everyone threw them away like 5 years later because like these
Yeah.
pants are insane. This is what I like to think about.
Maybe he didn't sign them like to make them valuable. Maybe he just wrote his name on the tag because
Oh.
they're all these cool hippies at the concert, and someone might take them.
There
Could
you go.
be.
There you go.
I wish I had the internet corner right now. Just to see.
Man, we've really cut the internet corner off. We
Man.
put him in a tub, and he doesn't know what to do.
What was the famous clothing store at that time? Did their stock raise?
I mean,
How often did Jimi Hendrix shop at Old Navy?
I was waiting for the internet corner to tell us all about hashtag Roadshow bling,
Oh,
and
man.
I didn't get the update.
we could have found some really good Twitterers.
One,
Uh,
one last minutia thing that I kind of like was like just to know the stats, like how many of these people actually try to sell this thing, and for people who do try to sell it, how much does it match the appraisal? Like, I don't know how there's a way to get all this info, but I would like some sort of like feedback loop on like, okay, so what are we actually getting? Or like, could the six of us set up our own antique roadshow and be like, oh yeah, $20,000, and it's like, yeah, no one ever knows because they don't actually put it up for auction. And
Yeah.
I gotta imagine there's some sort of like these people have been deemed worthy somehow to give these appraisals, right?
yeah.
There
For
must be
sure.
Yeah,
some
yeah, yeah.
qualifications, certifications, etc., that makes them somehow qualified beyond us, six dummies in a hot tub
But
talking
it's
about
like,
it.
compared to like, like if you watch ESPN and there are people making predictions about the games and they're wrong all the time.
That's
And
true.
It's like, well, they're just there because they used to play, and so they're quote unquote experts. Like, oh yeah, these antiques people make predictions over how much things go for, and they're wrong like just as often as they're right. Who knows?
I mean,
Yeah.
like
good
they're
point.
kind of incentivized in the show to be a little bit more bullish in their predictions and say that things are kind of worth on the higher end because it makes for better TV and stuff. So I mean, there's probably a little bit of that too.
yeah, but to find out what these sold for, I would make a very hard bet. There is an active subreddit on Antique Roadshow that
Probably.
probably tracks us down.
Ooh.
There's
Sponsored by Reddit.
there's another kind of related show, and I hate to keep bringing all those shows in here.
Oh,
There's
okay.
another related show called American Pickers, and it's basically like these two dudes drive around like in their pickup truck to like people who just have a bunch of junk, and they just like sift around their junk and then pick out like the things that they know are valuable and like
you
take
got
them.
this 1930s Coca-Cola road sign that was on Route 66. It's
Right.
worth $50,000.
Right, exactly. And maybe haggle with the guy or whatever, like buy it from him. But then like at the end of the episode, they'll say like, okay, here's what like it was bought for. Here's what they ended up selling it for. Here's how much they made on it, kind of thing, which is kind of nice.
There's clearly a lot of room for these shows. There's a lot of market out
Yeah,
there.
for sure.
So with that, maybe it's rating times. Hey, Brian, tell me how you feel about the show.
I think it's bottom of the top.
Bottom of the top. Any details you want to add to that?
I mean, honestly, I think it's just a Zen show. Like, you kind of see crazy outfits. The people watching is the best part. But then, like, older episodes actually had some duds, and I was looking forward to that.
It's very fair. Lack without the duds. Hey, Noah, how do you feel about the show?
Solid middle, straight middle. I like that it is very fast paced. Right, the turnover feels high. You don't feel like you're being like dragged along for too long. I wish there was more of this drama that we're looking for, right? Like something else and like try to flip it, or more of like compare contrast, go deeper into something that's really more interesting. And so that's why I can't put it higher than the middle.
Fair points. Gonna change it up. Annabeth, how do you feel about this show?
Wow. I think it's a solid middle. I think it's a great show. It's very relaxing. You learn some facts. You see a lot of people. You see a lot of stuff. It's very cool.
Hey, Rob, how do you feel about the show?
I'm going to stick with the trend. I'm going to put it in the middle. I thought it was interesting. This show does not feel like other shows. Like, it's very distinctive in how the feel of it, that it's like not trying to, it doesn't feel like the normal reality show kind of editing and stuff, and the tranquilness to it. But I enjoyed watching it, but like I can't imagine be like, you know what I want to do now? I want to watch some Antique Roadshow. Like I cannot picture us do that. And some of the fun was just having a group all guessing what the price was going to be, and so like sitting by myself, I don't think I would be as into it. So it's definitely a good show and like an interesting time, but like I think it's more middle than top.
Cool. Harrison, what do you got?
Yeah, I think I'm in a pretty similar boat. I mean, I think it's a middle third show for me. I liked watching it. I liked learning about all the stuff, hearing some of the insights from the appraisers. I agree with Noah. Like, I wish that there was a little bit more of the follow through on like, is this stuff sellable at this price? Can anybody make any money from this stuff? Like, I wish that there was a little bit more stuff like that. Some of those aspects from Pawn Stars, American Pickers, etc.
How many of these shows?
How many other shows
have
do you want to
seen?
name drop?
I don't know.
Are we going to have to do a theme month of shows Harrison compares to Antique Roadshow?
Yeah.
Should we do Antiques Roadshow Inspired Month?
Yeah, it's called
Ooh.
just the History Channel, and they have all these shows.
Oh,
fair
History
point.
Channel has a good track record.
Oh, yeah.
A treasure chest.
Middle third.
There you have it. He's in the middle. So with this one, I think, again, yeah, a lot of the reasons similarly stated. I would put in the middle, but I will put in the top of the middle. Mostly just because it's a really positive. There's really no downers of the show. I do kind of wish there were some clunkers just to keep it interesting. And I think to that similar point, like, I don't know that I would go out of my way to necessarily watch it. But if it was on and there were some people around that are like, hey, have you ever seen this? Have you ever actually watched it? Like, I would totally watch it again. So yeah, top of the middle. There you have it. All
Cool.
arounds. Now the most important piece of the Who Put This On podcast.
Yes.
I feel like we got some updates to get into. I'm curious of what other shows people have been going on. I know that we're gonna want to at least touch on some Are You the One updates. So I'm curious, before we dive deep in there, are there any other things people have been watching as a quicker update?
Yeah, I was expecting us to go into what did MTV put on.
Yeah, we'll get to the MTV
yeah.
section. It's coming up soon.
Handmaid's Tale, actually finally getting into it. Solid show. Money Heist on Netflix. It's a Spanish show. Funny enough, or at least shocking to me, the English voiceover works very well. First show I've ever seen do that well, where it's not like annoying to watch.
Yeah, which one was this?
Money Heist.
Money House. Okay, let's see that.
On Netflix. And then obviously Ballers is back on, so that's great. Succession is back on, so that's great.
So for Ballers, I've heard on the radio today that they, just when you thought the stakes couldn't be any higher, they will get higher every week now.
Probably.
That was the quote. Do you
Yeah.
feel like that's kind of the... I sort of fell off the
Who said that?
bandwagon.
Yeah.
This was
Rock said it.
Stugatz
Oh.
on the Dan Le Batard and Stugatz podcast
I
on
think
ESPN.
Yeah. I think that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So it does kind of feel that vibe. Okay.
Yeah, like
Well, I sort of
I
fell
don't
off
wanna
at,
go
like, the
into
end of season
details,
2.
but I think that's a good like little
keeps ramping.
byline. Like they keep giving these characters bigger and bigger either problems or opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
and then the drama that unfolds managing that as like each of the characters in the show. It's kind of this tension between them not knowing who they really are or striving to be someone better, and like then the stress that comes with trying to be someone better. Like and they just keep going in that cycle.
Gotcha. Brian, you been watching anything? I feel like we haven't had you on the pod in a little bit. You got any updates or things you've been doing?
No, I mean, I was traveling for a little bit, started a new job, so I haven't been watching much TV.
Yeah, that's a good reason, good excuses.
Yeah.
But now you're back.
Yeah, now I need to catch up on Are You the One?
Oh, man.
Okay.
Was that a segue?
That was a good segue.
That was a segue. But
I
it
gotta-
could also be
Right.
we need to not super spoil things for Brian.
I mean, you can go a little bit deep. Like, I'm still gonna watch it.
We
Okay.
don't have to spoil anything. I think we can talk in general a little bit about it because we can also do an Are You the One catch up after we finish the season.
That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah,
We'll
yeah.
do a full. Maybe we'll do an addendum. Who knows?
Yeah.
I got a real quick thing before we get to Are You the One? Harrison, did you listen to last week's pod?
I haven't yet.
Okay. So the Dancing with the Stars cast was announced.
Yeah.
And I asked Chris if he was interested that Camaro from Queer Eye was going to be on. And he said, no way, I hate that show. Dancing with the Stars. Did you know?
Chris did?
Chris
Chris hated it?
hates Dancing with the Stars.
Oh, I thought.
Oh, I thought Queer
I was gonna say
Eye.
because he loves Queer Eye.
No, he loves Queer Eye. He will not watch Dancing with the Stars even if the guy from Queer Eye is on.
Fair.
Did you know Kel from Keenan and Kel is going to be on this season of Dancing
Wow.
with the Stars?
I
And
did not
are
know that.
you now in?
I did not know that. I'm conflicted. I mean, you got Kel on one hand, you got Sean Spicer over here. I'm not sure if I can support.
Oh, Spicy's in there too.
Spicy's
What?
in there?
Yeah, we don't really want to get into that part of it.
Ooh.
But I'd ask Harrison about Kel for being on Dancing with the Stars.
I do have what I guess could be considered some sort of an antique in my home. If you're familiar with Kel Mitchell,
Oh, this is true. Also, I'll let you tell it.
Also, going back to the
No, I just got really
value-
excited because I know some of the details, but please do
the
share.
value of a signature.
yeah,
Well,
right.
yeah, I was, yeah.
Man, you guys are really,
We really
stepping all
stole
over
the
my story
punchline
here.
there.
I don't know what's happening. So I do have a Kel Mitchell related item, and when I was working in a previous job, Kel was like hosting this like event that we had sponsored. And so I went and I got a 2-liter of orange soda from a 7-Eleven and got Kel to sign it. And I now have a 2-liter of orange soda with Kel's signature on my shelf. So
Was Kel happy to sign the orange soda?
yeah, I mean you can tell that happens all the time.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's made his peace with it, I think.
It's like, oh, yeah. This is only the third time this
orange
week I got to
soda?
sign an orange soda
Who
bottle.
loves orange soda?
Kel loves orange soda.
Now, did you get the letter of authenticity?
No, I didn't. I should have gotten a picture of him with the bottle or something.
You definitely should have gotten a selfie with the orange soda and the signature.
Damn.
This might have been pre-camera phone.
No.
This was not.
No?
Should-
I think it was a while ago.
should
yeah.
we
Yeah,
send?
dude, the iPhone came out when I was in college.
But you had one?
Yeah.
Do you think we'll have to carbon date that bottle?
Well, I'm gonna say, should we
someday.
send Harrison to Antique Roadshow with the bottle and see
Uh,
what happens?
Yes.
I need to get that
Well-
letter of authenticity first.
Here's the thing. It's not an antique, but you could totally go on Pawn Stars with it.
Yeah, it's definitely a Pawn Stars
They
caliber
love
item.
sportsmen. Well, they don't love it, but they definitely trade in the sports memorabilia collector item market.
So why not, 90s Nickelodeon TV stars sign memorabilia?
Well, that's what I'm saying. They'll whatever. They'll give you $10 for it.
All right.
What if you get a deep fake video of Kel saying, "Yeah, I signed that"
Yeah, that's going to be a real issue in the not so near future with some
in
of
the
this
antique
stuff.
market?
Oh, yeah.
For sure, yeah.
All right, I think we
Alright.
got to get to this Are You the One update.
So who put this on? Update time. There's been so
Uh,
much that's happened. I feel like last time we watched some of the Are You the One in the very same hot tub.
We
And
did.
since then,
It's true.
it's really ramped up.
So, Are You the One this season, in case you did not know, is all sexually fluid singles. There are 16 of them trying to find their perfect match in the house. Everybody's incredible. It's a beautiful show. It's very positive.
It is surprisingly very positive for a house where you have 16 young people, a so-called boom boom room where they will bang each other, and it's on MTV. I am shocked how positive a show it is.
Like, MTV is about the only network that can actually handle these kinds of topics in any sort of a reasonable way. Like, I mean, they've actually, like, they have a pretty good track record on some of this stuff, I feel like.
Yeah. We are now, I believe, like 10 episodes deep. And we're wrapping up this season. So I think the season is going to be 10 opportunities for them to guess the couples. I think we've now seen 8 of those.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
So some perfect matches have been revealed
Yeah.
through math or through Truth Booth.
Very limited amount of truth boosts.
Yeah.
Very limited. A lot of action in the house. A little more drama, I would say, recently as well. It's really starting to ramp up. There was a massive fight in the Under the Sea nightclub party. How would
Yeah.
you describe that? So this was, it's not super spoiler, but there was an insane party that they threw at the house here. And it's under the sea?
It's under the sea
Yeah.
theme. They have like bubbles in the air. They've clearly provided like all these outfits for people to choose from. Everybody's wearing like scales, and there's more body glitter at this party than like I never knew existed in the world. Like people are like so covered in glitter you can't see their skin. It's amazing. There's,
Also,
like,
they're mostly naked.
yeah, everybody, yeah, which is good because this is like the most clothing they're wearing is glitter. Like there's one beautiful woman, her name is Paige. She is wearing literally a net and I don't think anything underneath on top except for glitter and like panties. And
That's
it's
it?
incredible. It's a beautiful look. And a wig. She's also wearing a wig.
Oh, yeah.
Great
Paige
wig.
really does look good with that wig on.
Beautiful.
Really good wig. I mean, she
Beautiful
looks good in
woman.
general, but like the wig is definitely a nice wig. Nice
She
look
looks
that
like
she
Katy
pulls off.
Perry.
See,
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna go run home and watch that. That sounds
You
amazing.
have to watch
an-
it. It's
it's an
so good.
Incredible season.
Man.
It's really good. The
Yes.
drama's very delicious. There are a lot of I think this season more than most there are like a lot of people to actually root for. Like these people come off as like more kind and genuine and open and like a lot of them are actually like trying to do this and there's like less like physical fighting. The drama is more like this one guy's sleeping around a lot and a bunch of people feel weird about that.
And he keeps telling everyone that he's into them. But they're like, well, you can't be into all of us.
I think
gotta
they could.
pick.
Or can you?
Like-
Well, that's true.
The house they're staying in is just unbelievable, and I can't wait for us to go stay there someday.
It's like how many? There's only like 3 bedrooms. And we're not
there's
staying.
That's all you
What?
need, James.
I'm not staying in the boom boom room, okay?
No,
Like,
we
it ain't
all
happening.
have to sleep in the bedroom, which is the whole like a huge like
The
stadium-sized room.
16-person couch or
Yeah, with
bed.
mattresses on the floor everywhere. What a beautiful room. There's also like the living room is also just full of mattresses. It's a very comfy house.
A lot of lounging opportunities.
Not a lot of private space in this house.
Just the
No.
boom boom room.
That is like the only private room,
That's it.
and it's not very private,
no, I don't
as
think
we've
it
seen.
locks.
I don't think it locks either.
It definitely doesn't.
The counselor, the relationship counselor, Dr. Frankie, has been an incredible addition to the show. She pops in very occasionally, gives them a couple wise words, and then disappears completely. She also has amazing tattoos.
Is she giving cryptic hints?
Yeah, I think I feel like that is one of my theories for why MTV brought her in, is like so that they could have sort of a mole to sort of like nudge people in the right direction. But she hasn't really. I thought she was gonna do one-on-ones with people, and I'm very disappointed we never get to see that. Like basically the way she works is she'll come into the room and they'll all be sitting there, and she'll be like the last episode we watched. I think her question was like, has anyone experienced any kind of like maturity or like growth during like your time here?
No.
And the woman who has probably experienced the least of that pipes up immediately.
They always seem to send her in right after some kind of giant drama or fight or something, and like usually she'll just ask about something, and no matter what she asks about, whoever was involved in the fight will be the first person to start talking about whatever they want to talk about.
Because they're all fired up.
Yeah.
And usually all Dr. Frankie says is, sounds like you guys need to communicate.
Yeah, I feel like she doesn't offer a ton of deep advice.
No.
No.
It's very light.
But like she can't really because she's doing like a consultation for like 16 people at the same time.
Right.
What
Do you
can
think she's
say?
watching all the footage?
I don't know. I hope so. I don't know.
I think that
One of my friends who's also watching this show told me that she read that the host of this show, Terrence J, does not know who the perfect matches are,
Oh, that's great.
which is interesting.
that's good.
Yeah. So everything that he says to them isn't a clue,
Very good.
unless he's very smart and he's put it together.
So
Is Terrence J's last name Miller?
No, I think it starts with a J.
yeah.
So it's not like a TJ
Well, you can
Type.
call him TJ.
I don't know.
type character.
Probably.
He's not like TJ Miller, but he's like TJ MTV host.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, that was a joke. I'm gonna step back out again.
There goes the mic into the hot tub.
So anyway,
anyway.
yeah, maybe in a couple weeks here we'll do a little wrap up
Yeah.
segment on Are You the One, but people should watch it. It's a really good
It
season.
is so good. I stand by the show. I think it's one of the best reality shows of all time.
How
Especially
excited
this
are you for the
season.
finale?
I'm pumped. I'm so excited. This season's been really interesting, like the way they've figured out the couples, which we will talk more on the wrap up podcast. But I'm pumped for the finale.
Believe it.
Can't
Do
wait.
we podcast after the finale? Oh,
Maybe.
it's a question. We'll see. Does anyone have anything else to get into? I I think that's it. So there's some sort of, facebook.com/who put this on. You can email us and talk to us on Gmail at whoputthison@gmail.com. You can tweet at us at twitter.com/whoputthison or at whoputthison. I don't know how Twitter works.
Just
and that's
Google
about
it.
it. Just Google who put this on. There you go. Hope you enjoyed it. Good night, folks. This episode brought to you by Wildcat.